Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent and merciful. All praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing us with existence and granting us the opportunity to move towards Him. Respected ulama, Maulana, dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. We have gathered here this evening to celebrate the Mubarak Wiladat of our beloved fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam. It is my absolute honor and privilege to welcome you all on this auspicious occasion. Agenda for tonight's program will have a recitation of Manqabat by Brother Shafqat Shah, followed by a speech by Maulana Amir Mukhtar Faezi. We'll have a recitation of Ziyarat-e-Warsa at the end of the program, and a to-go tabarruk will be provided by the sponsoring family, inshallah. I'll start the program by sharing a hadith from our beloved Imam Baqir. Imam said, "The parable of a man greedy of this world is a parable of the silkworm. The more it winds the thread around itself, the farther it becomes from salvation until it dies of grief." May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to understand the lessons which were taught by our beloved Imam, Par Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Here I would like to share a small poetry in the shan of our Imam. Baqir ka chehra dekh kar kehte hain ahle dil. Baqir ka chehra dekh kar kehte hain ahle dil. Pehli Rajab ko dekh liya 14ਵੀਂ ka chand. Now I like to request Brother Shafqat Shah to please come forward to recite Manqabat Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat.
صلوات پر محمد و آل آپ سب کو پانچویں امام کی ولادت پہ مبارکباد پیش کرتے ہیں. علوم آل محمد کا آسمان باقر، علوم آل محمد کا آسمان باقر، علوم آل محمد کا آسمان باقر، رموز کون و مکان کا ہے رازداں باقر، علی کا روپ ہے یہ منبر سلونی پر، علی کا روپ ہے منبر سلونی پر، دیار چہل میں ہے علم کی اذان باقر، پہنچ نہ پائیں گے افکار اس کے ساحل تک پہنچ نہ پائیں گے افکار، اس کے ساحل تک فضیلتوں کا ہے ایک بحر بے قرار باقر، بکھرتے جاتے ہیں شیروں میں نور کے جلوے، بکھرتے جاتے ہیں شیروں میں نور کے جلوے، ہے آسمان تخیل کی کہکشاں باقر، اسی کے ذکر میں مصروف ثاقب و بوذر، اسی کے ذکر میں مصروف ثاقب و بوذر، صدا و فکر کے پردوں میں بھی نہاں باقر، علوم آل محمد کا آسمان باقر، صلوات پر محمد وآلہ۔ عطا ان کی وراثت ہے، سخا ان کی وراثت ہے، عطا ان کی وراثت ہے، سخا ان کی وراثت ہے، علی کے ہیں یہ گھر والے، وفا ان کی وراثت ہے، یہ وہ ہیں جو کبھی ظالم سے بھی بدلہ نہیں لیتے، یہ وہ ہیں جو کبھی ظالم سے بھی بدلہ نہیں لیتے، کرم ان کی وراثت ہے، دعا ان کی وراثت ہے، یہ شب ہے خادمان کی سویرا کا نوکر ہے، یہ شب ہے خادمان کی سویرا ان کا نوکر ہے، یہ جب چاہیں اثر کر دیں، ضیاء ان کی وراثت ہے، وہ ہستی ہو ختیجہ کی، وہ زہرا ہو کہ زینب ہو، وہ ہستی ہو ختیجہ کی، وہ زہرا ہو کہ زینب ہو، گواہ قدسی ہے لوگو، حیا ان کی وراثت ہے، منا میں ابتدا ہے تو وہ کربل انتہا بھی ہے، منا میں ابتدا ہے تو وہ کربل انتہا بھی ہے، قسم ہے ابتدا کی انتہا ان کی وراثت ہے، پڑھو تطہیر کی آیت تمہیں معلوم پھر ہوگا، پڑھو تطہیر کی آیت تمہیں معلوم پھر ہوگا، ڈھلی ہے جو طہارت میں ردا ان کی وراثت ہے، نہیں تم جانتے حاکم کہ کیا جاگیر ہے ان کی، نہیں تم جانتے حاکم کہ کیا جاگیر ہے ان کی، ستارے ہیں گواہ ارض و سما ان کی وراثت ہے، عطا ان کی وراثت ہے، سخا ان کی وراثت ہے، علی کے ہیں گھر والے، وفا ان کی وراثت ہے، صلوات پر محمد و
Jazakallah Shafqat Bhai for a passionate, heartfelt recitation. May Bibi Sayyida Fatima Salamullah Alaiha will accept your pursa. For his and his family, Sehat and Salamti, please recite a very loud salawat. Brothers and sisters, tonight's Jashn is being sponsored by the family of Brother Umaid Ali Shah. For their Sehat, Salamti, sustenance and rizq, please recite a loud salawat. Let's recite a Surah Fatiha for the Isale Sawab of Shah's family's marhumeen, especially for marhum Dr. Nazir Mughal and marhuma Salma Shah Muswi, and for all of your marhum mu'minin and mu'minat preceded by a loud salawat. Before I invite Maulana to address the Jashn, I just have quick announcements. Majlis to commemorate the Shahadat of Imam Ali Naqi al-Hadi alayhi salam will take place tomorrow. The timing for tomorrow's program is just like tonight. We'll start with Maghrib and Isha prayers at 7:30 p.m. And inshallah, the Majlis will be addressed by Hujjatul Islam Maulana Amir Mukhtar Faezi. Jashn to celebrate the Wiladat of Amirul Mu'mineen Imam Ali alayhi salam. And Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad alayhi salam. Will take place on next Saturday, February 12th. The timing for that program is we'll start with Maghrib and Isha prayers at 5:37 p.m. inshallah. बंदगी में भी जो सरदार नजर आता है, हू बहू अहमद मुख्तार नजर आता है। इल्म हिकमत का समंदर है मोहम्मद बाकिर, इल्म हिकमत का समंदर है मोहम्मद बाकिर, या अली आपका किरदार नजर आता है। I now request Hujjatul Islam Maulana Amir Mukhtar Faezi to please come forward and address the Jashn. Please welcome him with a very loud salawat. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. By Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أما بعد, dear brothers and sisters, first of all, I would like to offer you my congratulations and tabrikat on this very special day, which was the day of Wiladat of our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Month of Rajab has started, and as you know, this month has the maximum number of events to celebrate or commemorate. It's a very busy month. If you look at the calendar, almost there are 9 events. If we want to celebrate them or if we want to commemorate them separately and independently, in 29 days or 30 days, you have 9 events. In addition to Shab-e Jum'ah, Namaz-e Jum'ah, and any other private and community event of any wedding, walima, or anything of that nature. So it means when you look at your calendar, this is the busiest month. And on the other hand, this is the month of Rajab, which was the month of Ibadat, special ibadats and special du'as and fastings of Ahlul Bayt, and I always tease and say that, and a month of eating of their followers. A month of fastings of Ahlul Bayt, but a month of eating of their of their followers. Every other day, inshallah, you will be invited for this niyaz, and every weekend and every day you will see it will start from the Rajab and it will continue the month of Rajab and Sha'ban. So these are some of the time that we need to sometime think and ponder that where are we heading and where are we going. Nobody is against niyaz. Don't paint it in that way. Nobody is saying that we shouldn't have the niyaz of Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam or other A'immah. But that niyaz can be arranged in evenings after iftar, and also it doesn't have to be in the way as normally we have that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places every day where people don't know what to do with it. They are being pushed and pulled and requested at multiple places on the same day, and it's not as back home we had only one day. MashaAllah, in North America, it's not a one-day event. It is the event which continues in the entire 2 or 3 months. So that was a note to mention in the beginning that month of Rajab, I will talk more about the virtues of month of Rajab tomorrow, inshallah, in Khutbah Jum'ah, and I will highlight that how even before Islam, people would wait for this particular month of Rajab. It was a month of Umrah. It was month of Ziyarat of Baytullah, and it was the month of du'as and special ibadat, even before Islam. And then of course when the Messenger of Allah, he started preaching Islam, and as he educated us on these issues, so the Messenger of Allah and his Ahlul Bayt, they showed us by practice that how much ibadat, how much salat, how much zikr, how many fastings and how many a'mal we have in this particular 1 month of Rajab. Of course, times have changed and we don't have that kind of appetite, we don't have that kind of taste of ibadat or dua anymore, and people are very busy and stretched out in their work and family and other things. None of us can do all that which is mentioned in our riwayat or in our books, but at least we should try our level best to keep the legacy and keep this sunnat and the seerat of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam. Recite a salawat. Today, which was the first of month of Rajab, this is the day of birthday of our 5th Imam. Our 5th Imam, as any other Imam, is equally important for us to look at his life, to look at his legacy, and to learn from his teachings and from his lifestyle and from the account of his life. When it comes to Ahlul Bayt, I have mentioned it many times. and briefly I am going to repeat the same thing, that all of them are equally important and all of them are very unique in their own account or in their own independent being. It's just like if you put these 14, like it is a big chandelier with 14 kind of bulbs or lights. Chandelier is so big, and then those, of course, 14 bulbs which are put in that chandelier are equally also big. If you see one missing, you will notice right away, and it won't remain that beautiful even if one is missing. You will point out, you will find out. You just look at the chandelier and you see there is something which is missing, because those are so prominent. All of them are so prominent. All of them are so at forefront and visible and giving their light that even if one is missing, you will find it and you will notice it. Same is the situation of these 14 Masumi. All of them have very special standing and very special experience and account of life and their contribution. That while they are all one family and equals, at the same time each one is very unique. What makes them unique is the time in which they live, the challenges which they faced, and under the circumstances what they did, that makes them very special and unique and different from the other ones. While in reality all of them had the same direction, the same message and the same concern. When it comes to our fifth Imam, just first of all, as normally we do, we ask that in the audiences, if there is anyone that who shares his name or his title or part of his name is on the one of the titles of this Imam, should raise hand, and we should recognize them and we should recite a salawat for them. So anybody whose name is Muhammad or anybody whose name is Al-Baqir. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. So for all these brothers that who have this beautiful name of either Muhammad or Al-Baqir, for their sehat, salamti, khairo barakat, success in this dunya and in that dunya, please recite a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All the names of Ahlul Bayt are very beautiful, but of course Muhammad and then Al-Baqir or Baqir. As you will hear, I will say a few things. Imam Muhammad Al-Baqir is not just a one individual. He was not only one person, but actually he was a movement. He was a movement, and he was an institution in itself, and very prominent personality. So his name and his legacy and keeping his name alive in our community and worldwide is very important. So when we are naming any male babies, particularly in the month of Rajab, if you get the chance and if you have the male baby in your family, so consider this name Muhammad Baqir. This is one of the most beautiful names that we should have. And by the way, I would like to make the correction of the pronunciation of this word. It's Baqir and it's not Baqar. So there are certain segments in of our community that when they will talk about Imam Muhammad Baqir, they will say Imam Muhammad Baqir. But when they will talk about somebody in their relative, in their community that who has the same name, then they will not say, oh, I am talking about Baqir. They will always say, I am talking about Baqir. So then he is not Baqir, the one who was named in the name of Imam Muhammad Baqir, but he is called Baqir. You may know many. Many times people come and tell me my father's name, Maulana recite a Fatiha for my father or my grandfather or my uncle. And what was his name? So his name was Baqir Zaidi. His name was Baqir Rizvi. His name was Baqir something. Baba, what is Baqir? So there is no Baqir Zaidi, there is no Baqir Rizvi. So it is Baqir. It is Baqir Rizvi. It is Baqir Zaidi. It is Baqir something, whatever. But this is also a custom and a very common mistake which people make. So I thought that since we are people of Baitul Ilm and this is how we educate ourselves and our community, so I should make the point that whenever you hear now from somebody, tell Baqir, so tell him, no, I am not going to tell Baqir, but I can go and tell Baqir. Recite a salawat. So Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, as you know, he was 7th member of Ahlul Bayt and 5th member of 12 Imams. Was born on 1st of Rajab and it was the year 57th Hijri, 57th year of Hijrah, and he left Medina with his parents and with his grandfather Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. Medina, when they left on 28th of Rajab, Imam Muhammad Baqir is part of a young member of that caravan. The youngest one, of course, is Ali Asghar, who was a newborn baby, but our 5th Imam was about 2 years and a half at that time, and he was 3 years old when the tragedy of Karbala took place. So in Karbala, he was there to witness this massacre with his own eyes, and you know how at that age children are curious and how much they are observant, and how such massacres sit in their minds and how they can impact on their outlook. Even for average children, and we are talking about somebody that who is not an average child. And Imam Hujjat-e Khuda, a very extraordinary individual at the age 3, is seeing all that massacre at the age 3, and then he gets also captured and he goes to Kufa and Sham and all that travel and everything. So he has listened to the khutbahs, he has seen the crowds, he has seen everything. So he is eyewitness of this story of Karbala. We had 3 Imams in Karbala. Of course, Imam of the time was Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam, and then Imam Sajjad and Imam Muhammad al-Baqir. We had 3 Masoom and 3 Imams present in Karbala. And at least there are 2 Imams that who have narrated the stories of Karbala and the history of Karbala and the details of that this whole tragedy, and there are two narrators are Imams of Ahlul Bayt, not only the other people. Sometimes people put doubts and they say, oh, who knows and who told you, and this is a folk story and made up, and people didn't know anything, so who told you what has happened over there, and what is the source of your information? Our source of information are two Masoom, two Imams. You cannot doubt their observations or their seeings or their narrations. And then of course we had other sources also. Recite salawat. Fifth Imam, when he was born, of course he was given this name, and the riwayat which we have among Ahlul Bayt that he was named by Rasulullah. And he was given this title of Al-Baqir also not by people but by Rasulullah. In that famous hadith and that conversation which Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari had with Rasulullah. It's a little bit longer text. In the interest of time, I will just give you the gist of that. That Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari, a very close companion, very trustworthy companion, Ansari from a young man from Medina. He was a young man in the time of Rasulullah and had keen interest in Ahlul Bayt and the teachings of Islam. So he asked Rasulullah that who are going to be the people after you that who will keep your legacy and who will continue what you are doing. So Prophet told Jabir bin Abdullah Ansari that it's me, and then it's going to be Ali, and then it's going to be my son Hassan, and then it's going to be my son Hussein, and then it's going to be son of my Hussein by the name of Ali, and then there will be a son of Ali ibn al-Hussein, which you, O Baqir, you Jabir bin Abdullah Ansari, will have the honor of visiting him and meeting him. You will get that long life that you will even visit him and you will see him. And when you visit him and see him, convey him my salams. And then Imam named, and Imam Prophet says he is going to be Muhammad al-Baqir yabqaru ilman, that he is going to be a man by the title of Baqir, and then Prophet explains what is the meaning of Baqir, which we will explain later. Recite salawat. So according to this narration, his name and his title both come from Rasulullah himself. He lived 35 years under the care of his great father, Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam. Actually 38 years, because 35 years is the after Karbala, and then he was 3 years old, so it is going to become 38 years. And then when his father is martyred in the year 95th Hijrah, so until 117, so Imam alayhi salatu wassalam has now his time. So you can count, it is going to be 22 years, 23 years from 195 to 117, 22, 23 years. So he had his own time of Imamat, approximately about 23 years or 22 years. But before that, for that, this 3 years before Karbala, he is with his grandfather, Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, and after this Ashura for 35 years he is under the care and in the company of his father, Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam. So one way of looking at people and trying to examine their personality is that you look to their family, you look to their father, you look to their mother, you look to their grandparents, you look to their uncles, cousins, the family in general. And if we look from that perspective, so he comes from Ahlul Bayt, he comes from, his father is the fourth Imam, and his grandfather is Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, and he is the only one so far from, if you look in the Ahlul Bayt, that whose father and mother both are Hashimi, both are Alawi, and both are Fatimi, because his father is son of Imam Hussain and his mother is daughter of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wassalam, whose name was Fatima, but her kunya, and she is known by as Abdullah, but her name was Fatima, and she was the daughter of Imam Hassan, and his father is a son of Imam Hussain. So the son and daughter of Hassan and Hussain, they get married, and then they have a child by the name of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam. A very special honor to be a Hashimi, first of all, itself is a great honor. Then being Alawi, the son of Ali, in addition being the son of Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam later on praised, he has a hadith that he says that this lady was Kanat Siddiqatan. She was a lady that she was Siddiqa and Arifa, and a lady that who had very high level of Iman and Ma'rifat and Taqwa. And she was the mother of our fifth Imam. And then of course he has a father like Sayyid Sajjad. He is growing up under his wings, under his care, in his company, listening his du'as, his munajat, looking at his ibadat, looking at his community service, and the way as the fourth Imam organized and established this community all over again. So the fifth Imam has witnessed everything and has learned from him. Then as you see that whose son is somebody and whose family member he is, but at the same time you see sometime that what did he produce, and being a father of a great person or personality is also another way of looking at his contribution or his status. And Imam Muhammad Baqir, as he is son of Imam Zainul Abidin, but he is the father of a man like Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. So being a father of Ja'far Sadiq is not something little. How many Ja'far Sadiq this world has seen? Only one. Imam of Imams, teacher of teachers, faqih of fuqaha. And then he is the son of Imam Muhammad Baqir. And he grew up again under the care and under the wings and under the teachings and under the training of his great father, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir. Now, we don't have much time in hand, it's Shab-e Jummah, but those were some of the notes I thought I should share with you from my own. And there are a lot that if we continue, we can keep going for another 1 hour. But today I would like to share with you some of the quotes from great sources from our books, so that you are not only hearing from me my observations, but you are hearing some very solid quotes from the Ahlul Bayt themselves, or from some very recognized scholars and pieces of some scholarship. So let's first see, we are praising Imam and we are trying to describe Imam, but Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam has described his father, and nobody can describe Imam Muhammad Baqir better than Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. And that also shows us that how we praise our Imams and how we talk about them and what kind of things we look for them to include in our speeches or in our poetry or in our discussions and discourses, and how Imams were used to look at Ahlul Bayt and other Imams, and when they were used to praise them, when they were used to introduce them, so how they were used to introduce them, and what were the virtues or special strengths which were important in eyes of Ahlul Bayt and our Imams. And you will see again the difference, that how Ahlul Bayt would describe, how Ahlul Bayt would look at each other, and how Ahlul Bayt would introduce each other, and how normally we, when we talk about them. So it is in Biharul Anwar. Allama Majlisi in the 46th volume of Biharul Anwar quotes this from our sixth Imam when he is talking about his father. He says, Kana Abi Kathira Dhikr. My father was a man that who was always doing dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My father was a man kasiro zikr. Dhikr is remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His tasbih, his hamd, his sana, adhkar, awrad. And Imam says, my father was kana abi kathira dhikr laqad kuntu amshi ma'ahu wa innahu la yadhkurullah. I was used to walk with him side by side. We would go together at places, and while he was walking and I was walking next to him, innahu la yadhkurullah. While he was walking, he was doing dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa akulu ma'ahu ta'am wa innahu la yadhkurullah. And when I would sit down with him on ma'ida, on sufra, on dining table, and eat dinner with him and food with him, innahu la yadhkurullah. And my father was still again doing the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَقَدْ يُحَدِّثُ الْقَوْمِ وَمَا يَشْغُلُهُ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. And even when my father was used to talk to people and he was in conversations with people, his heart was not ghafil from the dhikr of Allah. Even he was a man that much deep in dhikr, that even on tongue when he is talking with people and he is in conversation, but his heartbeats are what doing? The dhikr of Allah. وَكُنْتُ أَرَى لِسَانَهُ لَاذِقًا بِحَنَكِهِ يَقُولُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And many times I would see apparently his mouth is shut, his tongue is just where normally the tongue is. Apparently he looks like he is silent, but يَقُولُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And our teacher was used to demonstrate to us that this is a dhikr, that if you don't want to give the impression while you are among people that you are doing tasbih and you are doing dhikr and you don't want to move your lips, you can still say, you can still la ilaha illallah without even the movement of your lips, and person will see that you are looking at him silently while you are saying la ilaha illallah, which is afdalu dhikr. The best dhikr is la ilaha illallah. And Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, The sixth Imam is saying, my father who was fifth Imam was always doing that dhikr, and even when apparently he is silent, he is doing that dhikr. Then he says, وَكَانَ يَجْمَعُنَا فَيَأْمُرُنَا بِالذِّكْرِ. Then we who were his children and his family members and his servants and everybody at his household, he would gather us, فَيَأْمُرُنَا بِالذِّكْرِ, and he would ask us and command us to join him also and do dhikr. So he was such a father, he was such a husband, he was such a leader at the household that he would engage his sons and his daughters and his wives and his servants and everybody at home to do what? Dhikr. Hatta tatlu ash-shams. So apparently Imam is talking about after Fajr prayer. So after Fajr prayer he would gather us, sit down all together and do dhikr until the sun has risen. Until the sun has risen. When sun is risen, then this majlis of dhikr would be finished. وَيَأْمُرُ بِالْقَرَاءَةِ مَنْ كَانَ يَقْرَأُ مِنَّا وَمَنْ كَانَ لَا يَقْرَأُ مِنَّا أَمَرَهُ بِالذِّكْرِ. Now there are two ways to look at the riwayat. One is that after sunrise now, he would ask those of us who could recite Quran to now sit down and recite Quran. We did zikr, we did tasbih, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, and there are other adhkar which Imam were used to do. Now we finished, now it is sun has risen, now sit down, open the Quran and recite Quran. Those of us who could recite Quran, he would ask us to recite Quran. وَمَنْ كَانَ لَا يَقْرَأُ مِنَّا أَمَرَهُ بِالذِّكْرِ. But some of those who are too little and were not able to recite Quran, then he would ask us that while they are reciting Quran, you should do zikr. So, whether it was after the morning, the sunrise, or Imam is talking before, that one Imam was doing dhikr, so some of us were reciting Quran and some of us were just doing dhikr. But this is how the sixth Imam, when he wants to introduce his father, he is not going to those stories and those things which normally are very important for us to talk in these discussions or these jashns or in these kind of things and praise Imam with our own takhayyulat or with our own ideas. Imam would really bring the true life and the lifestyles and the true virtues of their fathers and grandfathers and Ahlul Bayt. And there we can understand that what was important for Ahlul Bayt, what kind of people they were and what kind of outlook they had. Then, so this is just one quote. We have many, but in the interest of time I am moving on. And then let me share with you two quotes from very great scholars of Ahlus Sunnah. They are great scholars of Ahlus Sunnah, and they have also looked at Imam Muhammad al-Baqir and how they describe our Imam. So the first quote is from a very accomplished scholar, Nawawi, Muhyiddin bin Sharafa Nawawi. He has a book, Tahzibul Asma wal Lughat. So he has a kind of made a catalog where he has put the names of very great personalities, great Muslim personalities. And when he is writing the names and a brief kind of their biography, so he talks about the fifth Imam and how he talks. He says, Huwa, meaning Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, Tabi'iyyun Jaleel. That is his first sentence. You know, there is a word Sahabi and there is a word Tabi'i. Sahabi is someone that who had the privilege of being a believer and seeing the Prophet himself with his eyes of head. Somebody who was Muslim and he lived in the time of Prophet, and he had the privilege of meeting the Prophet, seeing the Prophet. He is called Sahabi. Then after Sahabi, among Ahlul Sunnah, the greatest honor or the highest position is Tabi'i. Tabi'i is someone that who didn't have the privilege of being in the time of Prophet to see him or to meet him, but he met those who had seen the Prophet, who had met the Prophet, meaning he had the honor of seeing some Sahaba, some members of Ahlul Bayt, that who had seen the Prophet and had met the Prophet. These people are called Tabi'een. After Sahaba, according to them, those are the most important people, because they heard directly from those who had spoken with the Prophet and seen to the Prophet. And then after them, they say Tab'i Tabi'een. Tab'i Tabi'een are those that who didn't had chance to meet those who met the Prophet, but they had the chance of meeting Tabi'een. They had chance to speak and meet and talk with Tabi'een. This is the third group. So they have a hadith, they quote the Prophet, they say these are the best people, meaning my people who lived in my time and had personal interactions with me, and then those who are Tabi'een and those who are Tab'i Tabi'een. We don't have that hadith in our ahadith, but basically it is their standard of categorizing people, and it is to them it is a big honor to be a Tabi'i. So he said Imam Muhammad Baqir is Tabi'iyyun Jaleel. He is very eminent and prominent Tabi'i, because first of all he saw Imam Hussain, for example. Imam Hussain had seen the Prophet. Or for example, he had seen Jabir bin Abdullah Ansari. Jabir bin Abdullah Ansari was the Sahabi. Or he saw the Anas bin Malik, for example, Anas. And he saw so many other Sahaba. So by that, according to the Sunni credit, so he is giving him, and he says, he Rajulun, he is praising him by calling him Tabi'i. You need to understand that. Everybody is going to praise according to their understanding and their standards. So we cannot dispute with them, we cannot fight with them. But he is praising him. Then he says, Imamun Bari'un. He is he is Imam of the highest level. Mujma'un ala jalalatih. There is ijma and agreed, there is ijma and consensus among the scholars and Muslims that he was a man of eminence. Mujma'un ala jalalatih. On his jalalat, on his greatness, there is ijma. There was ijma in his time, and there is ijma, meaning consensus and agreement of all scholars that he was a man of great standing. Ma'dudun fi fuqaha al-Madina. He was one of the fuqaha of Medina. First of all, Sunnis, when they look at Imam or these people, so they look at them as faqih, fuqaha. For example, to them Abu Hanifa or Malik or Shafi'i or Ahmad bin Hanbal, who are to them very special people, they are all faqih. And there were few people before them who were known fuqaha of Medina. First of all, being a faqih is a very special status. And then being faqih of Medina, which was the prime center of fiqh at that time, or initially the first learning place was Medina. Being a faqih of Medina is much more prestigious than being faqih of Kufa or Basra, or faqih of Dimashq, or faqih of Baghdad, or even faqih of Makkah. Because being faqih of Medina is the highest and the most prestigious place. So he says he was one of fuqaha of Medina, but then he corrects himself and he says, wa a'immatihim. He was not only just a faqih of Medina, but he is one of the imams of fiqh of Medina. And they confess that Imam Abu Hanifa, for example, had come and visited him and had learned from him, and as Imam later on they talk about this Abu Hanifa that he learned from Imam Sadiq, but first they talk about Imam Muhammad al-Baqir. There are discussions and there are meetings. Then he says there are great people among Ahlul Sunnah, the Tabi'een, that they narrated at his behalf or they narrated hadith from him. Again, this is a fadilat because you need to understand who is praising. He is a great Sunni scholar of hadith. So he is praising fifth Imam in his way, according to his terminology or according to his style. And in their tradition, for example, if you are not of a very special status, then a muhaddis or a tabi'i or a sahabi or a great scholar is not going to come and listen a hadith from you and then go and narrate this at your behalf. Because first you have your level, your category. You have to be a man of that level that someone should come and listen the hadith from you. Somebody whose job is to narrate hadith, listen hadith and quote the hadith. So you have to be somebody and then also narrating at your behalf and say, I heard from him, and making you as the reference of this hadith for him. He is not going to just make everybody his reference. It's the hadith of Rasulullah. It is not just somebody told me outside they are distributing tabarruk. I heard from him. There are something going on, and who told you? This Joe told me that there is something going on. It's not. It's talking about hadith of Rasulullah. It's a very special thing. So he says, then he quotes a number of people. He says, Abu Ishaq, Ata bin Abi Rabah, Amr bin Dinar, Al-A'raji huwa asannu minhu. He said, this A'raji, who is older in age than Imam Muhammad Baqir, but still he goes and listens to Imam Baqir and quotes hadith on behalf of Imam Muhammad Baqir, while he is older than him. So, it explains the status of Imam. وَالزُّهْرِ وَالرَّبِيعَ. But then he says, وَخَلَائِقْ آخَرُونَ مِنَ التَّابِعِينَ. And then there are so many other tabi'een that they have listened the hadith from him and then narrated and quoted the hadith on his behalf. وَكِبَارُ الْأَئِمَّةِ. And those very big imams of hadith, they learned the hadith from him and quoted, and then he mentions two of them. He says, وَالرَّوَى لَهُ الْبُخَارِ وَالْمُسْلِمِ. He says Bukhari and Muslim both have narrated the hadith on behalf of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam in Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. So, meaning it may not appeal to me or to you or not a big deal, but you have to understand that a very established and eminent scholar of the Muslim community is praising fifth Imam and praising him at the highest possible level which someone can praise. Asking, when they want to make someone 100% gold, 100% pure, then they are going to say, oh, Imam Bukhari has narrated even a hadith from him, or Imam Muslim has narrated a hadith from him, or these people have quoted hadith or listened hadith from him. So that's one quote. The second quote is from a man, all of you have heard his name, Ibn Kasir. Ibn Kasir, he has tafsir, he has history book, and he has so much other thing. His one of very popular works is Al-Bidaya wa Nihaya. Al-Bidaya wa Nihaya, the beginnings and endings. It's a very scholarly work and very famous work of Ibn Kasir. So he praises Imam. He says, Abu Ja'far al-Baqir tabi'iyun jalilun. Abu Ja'far Baqir is a tabi'i, eminent, great, kabirul qadr. Kabirul qadr. His qadr, his manzilat, his daraja, his level is kabir, big. Ahadu a'lami hadhil umma ilman wa amalan. One of the great imams, one of the great pillars of this Ummat-e-Islami from the standpoint of ilm and from the standpoint of amal, both. So he said, Ahadu a'lami hazihil umma ilman wa amalan. Ilm and amal both. If one is looking for a pillar, one is looking for a very outstanding personality and one of the imams, was siyadatan wa sharafan. He was Sayyid from Awlad Rasul, was Sharafan, and he was also a man of Sharaf, which was a great honor. Summi al-Baqir. He was named or he was given this title of Baqir. Now a Sunni scholar, Ibn Kasir, in Al-Bidaya wa Nihaya. We are not quoting here Allama Majlisi or Shaykh Abbas Qummi. We are quoting Ibn Kasir in Al-Bidaya wa Nihaya. He says, وَسُمِّيَ الْبَاقِرْ لِبَقْرِهِ الْعُلُومِ. He was named Baqir because he was the one that who would split inside out the knowledge. Meaning, he was not a man of only Zahir, but he was a man of Zahir and Batin both. He was a man that who would not only touch the shell, but he would get to the, what is this called, which is inside of the shell. So Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, he was libakrihil ulum. He was a man of ma'na, not only man of alfaz. Actually, in his time, under his leadership, the scholarship entered into a new phase and a higher phase and in a deeper phase. Before Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, the phase was that people were only, they had memorized things. They were very simple and very kind of simple. They had their understanding of Islamic concepts was very basic and very simple. But then in the time of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir and under his leadership and under his scholarship, then the Muslim Ummah and its scholars, they got into more sophisticated, more philosophical, more deeper understanding of Islamic teachings, tafsir of Quran, the hadith of Rasulullah, the ahkam of fiqh, ma'arif, aqaid, whatever. So Imam Muhammad Baqir's job is now to bring the in-depth understanding, in-depth, whatever is there, bring it out and now share with people and tell them that don't remain only superficial in your understanding of Islam, get sophisticated, get scholarly and get deeper in it. That is actually the position of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam. Is I to say. Then he says, Kana. Now, we had heard from his son Imam Jafar Sadiq about Zikr and Zakir. This is something Muwafiq and Mukhalif, Sunni and Shia, insider and outsider. Everybody is talking about our Imam as, now this thing. He said, Kana Zakiran, Khashi'an. He was someone that who was always doing dhikr and with humility. He was with khuzu and khushu. He was doing dhikr, sabiran. He was very patient man. He had gone through a lot, but he was a patient man and steadfast. Wakana min sulalatin nubuwwa. He was from the family of nubuwwat. Rafi an-nasab Ali al-hasab. Ibn Kasir is writing in Al-Bidaya wa Nihaya, Rafi an-nasab Ali al-hasab. In hasab and nasab both, he is Ali and Rafi and high. No one can just be compared with him. وَكَانَ عَارِفًا بِالْخَطَرَاتِ وَكَثِيرَ الْبُكَاءِ وَالْعَبَرَاتِ. This Imam was someone that who was arif, what of inside, meaning he was the one that who had this marifat and irfan. He was arif. We are talking about in-depth understanding. He was arif, wa kathir al-buka, and he was used to cry a lot. And he was used to shed tears a lot. He was known for crying also. He was a man of ma'na. He was a man of feelings. He was not only, sometimes as we get intellectuals, then we have to hold kind of very hard ourselves and become stones, and we should never shed tears and we should never become emotional because we are somebody and we are scholars or we are leaders. So while he was leader of leaders and he was imam of imams and he was man of intellect and he was man of knowledge and he was man of scholarship and everything, but at the same time he was man of heart, he was man of emotions, he was man of feelings, and he was used to cry and cry a lot. What would make him cry? We don't have time now to discuss. First of all, Karbala. He was the eyewitness. He had seen all those heads on spears going from Karbala to Kufa to Sham, everywhere, and he has seen those ladies of his household without chadars in those. How Baqir and Sajjad can forget that in their life? He never forgot those things. And then what was going on with the Muslim community? What was happening with Islam? That would make him actually more cry. What was happening? So he was a man of that background, and then he says, Mu'ridan anil jidal wal khusumat. And one of the very distinguished things which Ibn Kasir notes is he was a man that who would always avoid from getting into fights and into arguments and into quarrels. That again tells that if you are a man of higher learning, if you are a man of a higher status, if you are a man of in-depth knowledge, it should make you to become more positive and more focus on things which you can accomplish instead of fighting with right and left and everybody and getting in quarrels and getting in arguments because you have more knowledge, now you have to go and mess with everyone. No. It should make you actually now more busy in accomplishing your scholarly things. So Imam alayhi salatu wasalam was a man that mu'ridan, i'raz is to refrain. He was used to refrain anil jidal. Jidal, everybody know, jidal, best to jidal. Wal khusumat, dushmani, honest, animosity, hatred, fights, arguments. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam was a man that who kept himself aloof and he kept himself away from all this. So these two quotes come from very established Sunni scholars praising our Imam. We can understand what are the true strengths of Imam in eyes of Imam Sadiq and then in the eyes of these scholars. That is actually his family, everybody spoke about it, his background, but then not only that he comes from a great family, but he himself is also a great individual. And he is not only great in knowledge, but he is great as he is great in knowledge, he is great in amal. And he is a man of, as he is a man of words, he is a man of meanings. He is, as he is a man of intellect, he is a man of heart. as he is a man of, as he is intellectual, at the same time he is a man that who has the emotions, feelings. And while I have finished my presentation, we heard the praise of fifth Imam from his son, and we heard the two pieces of praise from two great scholars. But if you allow me only 5 minutes, I want to quote himself and give you something as a take-home message that you can take a gift of his own words, that when he advised someone, and we have, according to some riwayat, we have 30,000 hadiths quoted on behalf of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir at the minimum, and the other one is talking about 70,000. So normally ulama think that 30 to 40,000 hadiths is quoted on behalf of our fifth Imam. So you can understand that how much we have from him in tafsir, in hadith, in akhlaq, in ma'arif, in different sciences, in every area. But this one, you know, there was a man by the name of Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Umar bin Abdul Aziz is one of the Umayyi Khulafa who lived in the office only for maximum a year and a half or something. He even didn't get 2 years. This man was different than his predecessors. And one of the reasons that he was different, because he was one of those people that who had some hang-arounds with fifth Imam. And he was somewhat under the influence of fifth Imam. Fifth Imam, as you know, his doors were open for anybody and for everybody. This division which today we have, that I am not going to go and visit the Sunni muftis and scholars, and they are not going to come to my masjid and to my office to visit me, this division didn't exist in those times. And particularly our A'immah, who were very inclusive and who had their doors and windows open for everyone. So they would welcome anybody that if they would come, they would appreciate their visits and they would talk to them as their mentors and fathers, and being the waris of Rasulullah and being the head of the community. So Umar bin Abdul Aziz, as you know, that he had returned this fadak, and he had returned fadak to Imam Muhammad al-Baqir first time. The fadak, when it was returned by Umar bin Abdul Aziz, and it was returned to Imam Muhammad al-Baqir. So this Umar bin Abdul Aziz asked fifth Imam to do some nasihat to him, to give him an advice, a piece of advice. The piece of advice which Imam has given, my brothers and sisters, this every word needs to be written. We were used to say it should be written with gold water or with gold. Now they have things which are even more expensive than the gold. So it should be written with those things, meaning it's very precious advice for any individual, and it again gives the outlook of Imams, that what were their concerns. And one of the strengths of our Imams were that they were community organizers. They wanted to keep people together. They wanted to keep their followers and everyone among the Muslims together. Muttahid. Families should stick together. Neighborhoods should stick together. Cities should sit together. And then the ummah and everyone should stick together. So this was one of the highest, the priorities for our Imams. So Imam says, Usik, I advise you, Usika an tattakhiza saghir al-muslimin walada wa awsatahum akha wa akbarahum aba farham waladak wa sil akhak wa barra walidak. Imam says, live in the community and in the society in such a way that when you see any young Muslim, any young member of the community or society look at him as your son. Usika an tattakhiza saghir al-muslimin waladan. Saghirul Muslimin, young Muslim, when you come across with him, you look at him as your own son. Wa awsatahum akhan, and if there is someone of your age, approximately little less, little more, then look at him as your brother. Wa akbarahum aban, and if someone is older than you and is approximately in the age of your father, then look at him as your father. First of all, Imam says, everyone is related to everyone among the Muslims. You should not say, oh, he is this and he is that, he is black, he is white, he is yellow, he is African, he is Asian, he is Indian, he is Pakistani, he is Arab, he is Iranian, he is this, he is that. Never look into these kind of things. If he is a Muslim, then you should consider one of these three things. And Imam is talking to a man. Of course, he is using these words, but if you look in depth, this is for sisters also, and they need to see in the same thing, same way. So, look at these little girls as your daughters, sisters of your own age, a little bit less more, as your own true sisters, and sisters who are in the age of your mothers, look to them as your own mothers. So it should be brotherhood, sisterhood, in both circles. First of all, don't take distance from one another. Get closer, connect. And then Imam is putting these three positions. Walad, akh, and ab. Your son, your brother, and your father. Then Imam says how you should now deal with them, how you should interact with them. Farham waladak. Anybody who is in the age of your son, be a man or woman of mercy. Show mercy toward them. Be merciful to them. So, Imam didn't say that if someone say, oh, I don't look to my son with mercy, I am father of, meaning I command him, I demand, I control, I do this, I do that. No, that is not the fatherhood. Father, the first thing for father is to be a person of mercy. You should be a man which has riqqat qalb, and you have your heart is full of love, and while it is full of concerns, it is full of love. And then when you mix these two things, it makes you merciful. So, be very kind and very merciful to the young ones, and every young one. It's not only your own son, you have to say, I'm going to be, but with others, I'm not. And when it comes to brother, what is more important for brothers? Imam knows that one of the major problems among the brothers is that they split away from one another and they leave each other. They fight on small things, on real estate, what their father left for them, the fortune what they have now to divide, or one brother gets rich, the other remains poor, and the rich one doesn't want to now pay bills of the poor one. So the easy way is to make an excuse and just stop talking to him. You are lazy, you are this, you are that, you don't listen to me, so I'm not going to see you, I'm not going to talk to you. So brothers, their problem is that they fell apart from one another and they disconnect themselves from one another for a variety of reasons. Imam says, if you consider someone as your brother, sil with Saad Lam, meaning do sila with your brother, remain in contact, remain in connection, and remain someone that who is doing silatul rahim to his brother. Today you are rich, tomorrow maybe he will be rich. Or for other reasons, and even if he is poor, he is your brother. So brothers should stick together. So similarly, in community, everybody is, in my age is my brother. So when he is my brother, what I need to do is to hang around with them, to connect with them, to talk with them, to visit them, to invite them, to do all that, just as brothers. Last thing, وَبَرَّ وَالِدَكَ. What do you need to do most for your father? You need to do good with your father. Serve your father, respect your father, return the favors which your father was used to give to you in his time. Now it is your turn. You have to be kind, you have to be humble, you have to be serving, you have to be doing your best toward your father. So that was the advice, and then the last piece Imam says that is separate. He said, وَإِذَا صَنَعْتَ مَعْرُوفًا أَدِمْهُ. And if you start doing something good, then make sure that keep doing it on regular basis and continue doing it. Don't do something good for a few days and then abandon that practice and abandon that good thing what you had started to do that. Many of our problem is that we get motivated, we start doing things in Muharram, we start doing things in Rajab, we start doing things in month of Ramadan, or when after a death of our relative or something happens to us, so we become very careful, pious, people of praying on time, charity, whatever, and then after a few weeks, few months again, we abandon that. Imam says no. If you start something good and if you are doing good, then keep doing it all the way. Don't abandon good practices. Don't abandon the good things. When Allah has put you on the path, then stick with the path. My brothers and sisters, this advice of Imam Muhammad Baqir can fix all our community problems. And even before that, our family problems. Imam tells us that as a father, the first and foremost is mercy. Being humble, being good, being nice, being kind. You discipline your child with kindness. Lead your child with kindness. Motivate your child with kindness. Being kind. I don't want to get into the detail, but kindness is key. It can, yes, it won't change him just tomorrow. It won't change him within a week or a month, but it will. It will start working. But you sow the seeds of love and respect and lead with the example and be kind. With brothers, stick together and do good with one another. And do your best. Don't look how he is responding. One of the major problems is that all of us, I don't do good with him because he is not good with me. He doesn't return the favors. He doesn't appreciate. He doesn't listen. He doesn't do this. No, just forget about all that. You do your part. You do your part and keep doing it. Eventually it will start working. The last thing is the father. And then look, if we can start considering every child as our child and every person of our age as our real and true brother, and if every elderly as our father or our mother, then you will see that how much love, how much affection, how much connections, how much respect, how much strength, how much spirit can come in the community, and how we can thrive as a community, and how we get stronger in every area of the life. This was one of the things which all of our Imam preached in different words, but a message consistently was given from Prophet until the 12th Imam. Everyone gave the same message. Words are different, but the message is very consistent. We should try to look into these things, my brothers and sisters, when we come in these celebrations, when we come in the Jashns, when we come in these things, because that is why we look back at these persons and their personalities, and we celebrate their days or we commemorate their days, not for who, and not for those kind of things. We do it because we want to learn from them. Those are our role models, those are our ideals. Let's look at them, derive lessons from them, and try to imitate according to best of our ability, and keep doing it and keep improving it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to drive the lessons from the lives of our ma'asumeen, from Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wassalam. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be the best Shi'as and the best followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wassalam, and best members of our families, and best members of our communities, and best citizens of our country. Recite a salawat. Brothers and sisters, as you have heard, today's event was sponsored by the family of Brother Ummeed Ali Shah and his family. They are very dedicated members of our Baitul Ilm community. They are wonderful volunteers and actually serve Baitul Ilm community in many ways. And now alhamdulillah their children are also doing the same thing what their parents were doing. So they offer this event every year, and for their sehat, salamti and khair o barakat, please recite a lot salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. They have requested a Surah Fatiha for Marhuma Salma Shah Musavi and Dr. Nazir Mughal. We have another request of Fatiha for Brother Sayyid Razzaq Hussain Naqvi, who is the cousin of Brother Jafar Naqvi, and a young man by the name of Aban Saleh Muhammad, who died at the age 20, I believe yesterday in Chicago, and buried today. So for Isale Sawab of all these marhumeen and your own marhumeen, a Surah Mubarakah Fatiha masbukatan bis salawat. Salli ala Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We are going to recite Ziyarat-e-Warisa and conclude the program. But before that, if you can all, for all Mareez, Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, for their Shifa-e Kamil o Ajil, if you can recite one loud salawat. Assalamu alayka ya warisa Adam safwatillah. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. ولعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم زيارة حضرت علي بن الحسين السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد السلام عليك أيها الشهيد السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم لعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به زيارة جميع الشهداء السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداءه السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز معكم زيارة حضرت أبو الفضل العباس السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوتهم على الإسلام أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي ولعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام ونعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم السلام عليكم مولاي يا أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء السلام عليك وعلى آبائك السبعة وعلى أبنائك الأربعة. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.